The Philippines is widely regarded as one of the most Catholic countries in the world, not only in population, but in policy and in practice. With nearly 80 million baptized Catholics and a culture steeped in the traditions of the faith, the Philippines has, for many years, held fast to the teachings of the Church, especially with regard to matters of life and family. The Filipino people, whether Catholic or not, share a love for life and family, and their resulting happiness remains enviable in a world where so many families have fallen to what Blessed John Paul II called the culture of death.
The Philippines is still a predominantly Catholic country, pro-family, pro-life. We love our children, we love our elderly.
We were considered to be the happiest in a happy index in one of the surveys. It's so funny and strange that amidst all these financial crises and all these hardships in the country, we would still consider ourselves happy, and their happiness comes from our family.
The Filipino people who still have 5 children, 6 children, 7 children, a dozen children, compared to the West, compared to the dying European countries, we have the people. Second, we have the faith.
Francis and I are Catholics and proud of it. Our faith means everything to us. It's the bedrock of our family life. And we had deliberately decided that our Catholic faith would play a key role in our marriage, in all of our activities, in my business, in his practice as a lawyer. All of these things are considered whenever we decide on something, how many children to have.
When you get the bishops and the priests and the lay people to work together, they're unbeatable. Wherever I go in the world, and I've been to 50 countries now, you never find bishops and priests preaching the truth as strongly as they do in the Philippines.
A great historian poet once said, we are poor, but we have 2 treasures. One is our faith and the other is our song. And he said, as long as there is a priest saying Mass at the altar, and as long as there is a mother singing her lullaby, then he said, we may be poor, but we are rich, and we may be downtrodden, but we will rise now.
Don't be shy when people call your country third world. Pro-lifers all over the world look to the Philippines for inspiration. The Philippines is really the only remaining first world nation spiritually.
But pressures from the culture of death continue to mount. And the latest attack against life in the Philippines comes in the form of a bill before both houses of Congress, a bill which, if approved, would have devastating ramifications for all Filipinos and undermine many of the values on which the country's constitution is based. Although it has undergone several revisions and appeared under many names over the years, it is commonly referred to as the Reproductive Health, or RH Bill, and at its core seeks to mandate the compulsory promotion of abortifacient contraceptives under the guise of concern for family health, particularly the health of women.
They have changed the meanings of the bill several times. They called it a population and development bill. They called it reproductive health bill. And now our president says it is responsible parenthood bill. It is called a comprehensive responsible parenthood, reproductive health, and population and development act. What is the difference between all of this? Only the title.
As early as 1999, the bill was introduced in the Philippines. It didn't pass. It was reintroduced in 2001, in 2004, in 2007, and in 2010.
Since the 11th Congress, they have been trying to pass it, but every time the Filipino people would always do everything to block it, together with the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines.
Responsible parenthood bill, it is immoral. It is unconstitutional. It erodes a lot of very treasured Filipino values.
The bill is meant to force all of us, all the Filipinos, to go into mandatory contraception and comprehensive sex education.
The Philippine Medical Association, praise God, no? They came out with a statement that life begins at conception. And to us, that's something most praiseworthy. And so it is understood that the contraceptives are abortifacient and therefore are killing.
In our medical books, life begins during fertilization. That is a constant. It is as a solid foundation as the laws of gravity. But when we talk about oral contraceptive pills right now, it has three mechanisms of action.
They work most often by suppressing ovulation. Second, they thicken the cervical mucus to stop the sperm from moving. And third, they work by thinning the endometrium of the uterus so implantation cannot take place. What this means is that the new developing human being of 5 to 7 days travels down the fallopian tube and can't find purchase in the uterus and is simply sloughed off during the next menstrual period.
At this time, Filipinos would never, ever allow a bill that allows abortion to be passed. It's taboo, it's anathema, it's something that's so unimaginable. But that's how it starts, a little bit at a time.
If you go against this bill, this will, according to the provisions here, this could put you to prison. This could imprison anybody. The prohibitions listed here could imprison anybody, whether you're a clergyman, you're just an ordinary Filipino citizen.
They tell us that nobody can oppose the teaching of sex in the school, and I've said not even the parents. It is said there not even any agency for that matter can oppose. No,
I am a doctor by profession. I was educated by the Royal and Pontifical University of Santo Tomas in Manila. I was never trained or taught how to do ligation or sterilization or vasectomy. And if a patient approaches me and asks that I should do a procedure called vasectomy or tubal ligation, and if I tell the patient, I'm sorry, I cannot do that because I was not trained, it's against my belief, then I can be punished. I will have my day in the prison.
The language in it says that anyone who deliberately spreads malicious falsehoods about reproductive health can be jailed for 6 months and fined a huge amount of money. Now, this is not defined in the bill, and this is how the anti-life people operate. They leave the definitions very loose. The objective is not to jail people, it's to intimidate them into not speaking up against the RH bill.
It will put us to prison for 6 months and pay a fine of up to 50,000 pesos or both if we, for example, provide incorrect information.
And such provisions lie in direct contradiction to the freedoms guaranteed to the people.
In our Philippine Constitution, it's very clear in the Bill of Rights, Article 3, Section 5, that freedom of religion, freedom of speech must forever be guaranteed to every Filipino. We are told to go against our church, and we will even go against our Philippine Constitution.
In our Constitution, Article 2, under the guiding principle, in Section 12, it states that the state recognizes the sanctity of the life of the family. When you talk about the state recognizing the sanctity of family life, you talk about life. In any contentious issue, we have to go back to Article 2 in its guiding principle. And in Section 12, if we are having this problem with reproductive health, we have to go back that the state shall protect the sanctity of family life.
All of it seems to be written by the big international organizations like Center for Reproductive Rights, Maurice Stopes International, International Planned Parenthood Federation. The language you see is the language of the International Population Control Cartel, not the language of the Filipino people.
It would seem that a bill containing such draconian provisions would garner little, if any, support from lawmakers and would have long since been abandoned by its proponents. So how, then, has the RH bill gained so much support?
Many were asking me, Doctor, how come, despite the fact that this bill didn't pass in 1999, it didn't pass in 2001, it didn't pass in 2004, it didn't pass in 2007, and even 2010, how come this bill just keep on coming? What's the reason behind? And I told him, money.
The greater majority of the Filipino people do not like the bill. The government and many non-government organizations are pushing the bill because of the mind-boggling amount of money that goes with it.
When we had the caucus between the bishops and the legislators, they openly admit there is so much money involved, and that we can tell people, and that they admit.
Global Health Initiative gave the Philippines for phase 1 and phase 2 almost $300 million.
They're using the lobby money. They have a very strong influence with the media, especially the one running the television, some of the good writers in the newspapers, and even very good newscasters.
I myself got a call and they were offering me $1 million direct to my account, and I politely said no.
With all the lobby money spent by reproductive health supporters, their assertion that the RH bill has been crafted to help alleviate poverty may appear ironic, if not hypocritical.
Many said, the more children you have, the more you become poor. In fact, our politicians, pro-RH politicians said, the reason why we are poor is simply because we are so many. You people there in the squatter area, you people in the slum, you are contributing a lot to our present misery. Overpopulation equals poverty. It's not true.
The Philippines has about 300 people per square kilometer. Then we look at the Koreas. North Korea has about 200 people per square kilometer, about 1/3 less than the Philippines, but they can't even feed their own people. They're very poor. South Korea has more than 500 people per square kilometer, nearly twice that of the Philippines, and they're a very rich country. So there really is no relationship between the number of people you have and poverty. Mostly has to do with the way the government is run.
They say we are so many, that's why we are poor. And yet in the past, during election, they are saying we are poor because we are corrupt. No, and I don't hesitate saying, and everybody admits, there's much corruption, graft and corruption in the government.
Money to be used to create jobs, money to be used for better health care, maternal and child health care in hospitals and clinics, were not used simply because, according to research, 400 billion pesos, roughly 1/4 of our national budget every year, goes to graft and corruption.
The primary problem in the Philippines is the corruption and the concentration of wealth. Where this money needs to go is instead into authentic economic development. That's a human and humane solution, into better roads, better health care, better schools, clean drinking water. That's the way to elevate the standard of living of the people, not to hold down the numbers.
And because of their number, the Filipino people, specifically those working abroad, have been able to sustain their country through the global economic downturn.
More people equals manpower, more jobs. You can send all your people abroad, work in every part of the world, and in return, you have billions of dollars in remittances.
While 70% of the world's economies went down because of recession during the world financial crisis, the Philippines was one of the 30% of the world's economies that stayed afloat. Because why? Because we had 9 million overseas Filipino workers who were remitting dollars to this country. $14 billion a year was brought back to the country.
I met a mother, 72-year-old mother in Mindanao. She got 16 children. Then I asked her, she's a very religious woman, did you regret it that you have 16 children? And to my surprise, I said, to tell you, doctor, I regretted I have 16 children. Really? Why? Because of my 16 children, I got 3 nuns, I got 2 priests, I got 4 lawyers, I got a doctor, I got a nurse, I got a social worker. Now, all of my children are outside the Philippines. 3 of them are now in Canada, 1 are now in America, 3 are in England, 3 are in Australia, 3 are in New Zealand. My children in America will say, "Ma, you come here in January." My children in New Zealand, "Please come here in January." My children in New York will say, "Please come here in February." My children in England will say, "Please come here in May." How I wish there are 16 months in 1 year. And you know, he said, "Doctor, it's one of my children. They give me $200 a month. So here I am. What shall I do with my money? I'm only one left with my nephew in the house. I live like a queen. But when all my children were still 1 year old, 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, oh my God, it's really full of challenge. It's not misery. But the moment I see all my children, I'm so filled with happiness.
But could this Filipino diaspora be what the Western elites really want to stop? Might they feel threatened by millions of people of color spreading their faith and love of children to nations shivering in the dead of a demographic winter?
I hear that some economies or some governments are behind this. I hear that they are afraid that because of an increase in population, let's say for Filipinos, there is going to be Filipinization of this part of the world or of the world. Everywhere you go, there are Filipinos.
There is this demographic cross where the population of the first world countries are fast going down, and the population of the colored people, like the Africans and us Asians, they're going up. And so while there are many countries now who are dying, we are populating the world.
We cannot allow that this country, which is the last bastion of Catholicism, the whole world today, will be joining the so-called zero population growth in a matter of 10 years.
It used to be in 1950, the average family had 7 or 8 children in the Philippines. Now it's 3, and the UN projects it'll be only 1.5 by the year 2050. So I would urge the Philippines not to follow in the footsteps of so many other dying countries. We've seen all over the world that population control does not make a people richer, it doesn't make them better off. All it does is it allows them to become puppets of the big developed world countries like the United States, Canada, Sweden, Germany, and Australia. And that's the purpose of the RH bill. We have seen through experience through many countries that all of this population control does the people no good. All it does is it makes the rich people in these countries richer and the poor people poorer.
They will have a hard time defending what they want for the Philippines if there are Filipinos who have the conviction to know what is right from wrong. I think even if it will take them ages to pursue what they want, we will take ages also to defend what is right from wrong.
How can a baby be an intruder to the womb? Puso lang ba yung baby?
And as the word spreads about the evils of the bill, the defenders are growing in strength and in number.
I'm hopeful for the future. For as long as there are groups out there like HLI, Couples for Christ, Foundation for Family and Life, these are the groups that will bear the torch.
Large lay groups like Couples for Christ, Focolare, El Shaddai, and many others, they have strong lay leadership, and they look to the bishops, the CBCP, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines for leadership. And so they're unified in fighting against the RH bill and other evils.
Before I met or heard about even HLI, I had already been studying pro-life issues. And when we had that conference, it put pro-life in its proper perspective in how we should live our lives as pro-lifers on a day-to-day basis, on how we can evangelize people through our pro-life ministry.
If there's somebody who hear us speak, they want again to have more people hear the message. And so that is why we are so busy. There's no time to get tired. There's even no time to get sick.
In 1999, gusto rin ipapasa ang RH Bill 8110. Hindi napasa sa awang ng Diyos.
We have this series of marches for life in the Philippines, in every diocese in which HLI Pilipinas is very instrumental because we encourage all our leaders to show what we call as the show of faith and the show of force. Numbers.
I was just in one diocese, and there were 12,000 people who came. And in Rojas City, there were also about 12,000 people who came. So it's practically all over the country.
The big marches and rallies that the Filipinos have, we have in Latin America, we have all over the world, they're very effective, not only in changing the minds of lawmakers, but even more in getting people involved in the issues.
We were able to convince dozens and dozens of our lawmakers to stand firm with us and for us. In the diocese of Cagayan de Oro, in one diocese in Maasin, when prior to the Marches for Life, these congressmen in these areas are known to be pro-RH. They are even signatories of the RH bill, also in the Archdiocese of Osamis. But on the very day we have our Marches for Life, can you imagine? During our marches, this anti-life or pro-RH congressman suddenly appeared and joined us.
We have lawmakers who have been joining us at marches. They have not only joined us, they have spoken in the rallies for life. For example, in our last rally here in Manila, we had one senator, we had several pro-life congressmen.
In one of the dioceses, during our rally, in front of thousands of people, just few minutes before the bishop has to say something against the lawmaker who is supporting the RH bill, just few minutes, his chief of staff handed him a short letter saying, "Your Excellency, be it known that today I am withdrawing my support, my signature to this RH bill, and I am now joining your camp to join your clamor against RH bill." It's a miracle.
Sabi ni Marcos, by now we serve me. I now hold this country under population control.
Who are we versus, of course, the politicians and who are well-funded, well-organized. They have supported also, of course, in the Philippines. Practically, we could say all our politicians are really millionaires. But when they see thousands of people moving in, marching in, with all the placards, with all the streamers, calling for them to support us, it is proven to be very, very effective.
It has also presented a number of challenges. Until the culture of death is defeated, those challenges must be faced head-on, and the need for support will be great.
Frankly, when you organize marches like this, you have to spend a lot for the sound system, for the signages, streamers, and so on and so forth. In mobilizing people, you have to spend a lot, but it's really worth it. It's proven to be very effective to send signals to our lawmakers.
We have very, very limited funds at Human Life International, but we stretch it every single centavo. So our benefactors will be very happy with that, because every single centavo we give, it multiplies a millionfold.
Within the Philippine government, support for the Reproductive Health Bill remains strong, but its opponents have thus far risen to match that strength. In the winter 2011 congressional session, in which it was expected to pass, the House of Representatives voted to suspend debate over the bill until later in the year, a temporary victory for the pro-life cause and a stay of execution for the country. But the bill's backers are patient and persistent, and they're now taking the battle to the floors of both congressional houses. With hands folded in prayer and eyes trained on the future, the Filipino people ready themselves for the next challenge, imbued with a hope that only their faith can provide.
Whether the bill is approved or not, to us, our role is to continue proclaiming, the love of the Lord, and for that matter, evangelization.
Those of us who are pro-lifers are becoming, you might say, more and more radical in our love for the church and our love for the Lord and our love for life. And it's an infectious kind of radicalism. There's a very strong revival. And there are young people who are living out their faith. The Live Pure movement talks about chastity among young people. And here we are working on our natural family planning, giving people a real option as opposed to, let's say, artificial contraception.
I look upon the Filipinos as the yeast of the faith. I go to places like Papua New Guinea, Cambodia, Brazil. Always the Filipinos are there and they're spreading the faith. So we want to have as many Filipinos as possible throughout all of these countries.
We have the faith, we have the people. What is needed here is really to sustain.
Because the main reason why we are poor in this country is not because we are needy, but because of graft and corruption.
Philippines being the last beacon of hope, the last bastion of Catholicism. If we will allow the Philippines to embrace abortion, the war is over.
They're proud to have sponsored that bill. To begin with, we shouldn't be talking about it because it is against the Constitution. As I have mentioned before, it should not be part of our choice.
Life is the most basic right of all, upon which all other right depends. There is really no law, constitution, or program that can abrogate the right to life, which is given to us by the Lord.